The story of young Costa Rican Mariam Vallejo shook the entire country, leaving even the most composed people stunned. What started as a seemingly ordinary argument turned into a tragic event that could not be undone. Those who thought they knew her story soon discovered deeper truths. A world filled with manipulation, toxic relationships, and love games that often crossed dangerous boundaries. Mariam had hoped to keep her family united, but her love ultimately cost her life. What really happened on that tragic day? And who holds the responsibility for her death? Unhealthy relationships aren't worth the fight or the effort to salvage. At their core, they're like living on a powder keg, ready to explode with ongoing arguments, manipulation, bitterness, and attempts to control. A harmful partner may not only use physical violence but also cause emotional damage. This often shows up as breaking down their partner's self-esteem, making them feel worthless, inadequate, and convinced they cannot live without them. Through constant criticism and demeaning behavior, they undermine their partner's achievements and destroy their sense of identity. Such a relationship brings only pain, disappointment, and a lack of hope for any future together. But who was Mariam Vallejo? Mariam Andrea Fernandez Vallejo was born on February 19, 1998, in Heredia, the capital city of the province with the same name in Costa Rica. She was the eldest of 3 siblings in the family of Douglas Fernandez Aguilaro and his wife, Ivania Marieta Vallejo. Her parents worked tirelessly to provide their children with everything they needed, ensuring they received a good education and grew up to be honorable individuals. From an early age, Mariam stood out for her striking beauty, which became even more pronounced as she matured. By her teenage years, she possessed a model-like appearance. Long black hair, large expressive eyes, a perfectly symmetrical face, and an impeccable figure. It was no surprise that Mariam attracted many admirers competing for her attention. Those who knew her described Mariam as intelligent, cheerful, outgoing, and kind-hearted, always willing to lend a hand. She excelled in her studies and dreamed of a career in journalism and social communications. At 18, she enrolled at a prestigious university in San Jose, where she pursued editorial work and broadcast journalism. Her parents were proud of their eldest daughter, confident she would succeed in her chosen path. However, shortly after starting her studies in the capital, Mariam began a relationship that, sadly, would bring her nothing but hardship. Her family sensed the danger early on, but blinded by love, Mariam refused to heed their warnings. So, who was Marvin Bernays? Marvin Alonso Bernays was born in 1992 in San Jose and was the eldest of 2 children in a wealthy and prominent family. His parents owned a large chain of pharmacies and several department stores in the capital city. Marvin grew up very close to his younger sister, and the two always supported each other. As a child, Marvin was spoiled and demanding, never being denied anything he wanted. His parents consistently excused his behavior and shielded him from the consequences of his actions, no matter how serious. This lack of limits allowed Marvin to develop destructive habits early on. During his teenage years, he became involved with alcohol and illegal substances. He regularly attended parties at popular spots, had many brief relationships, and lived without any clear plans for the future, relying entirely on his parents' wealth. For his 18th birthday, his parents gave him an expensive car, which he often drove recklessly and while under the influence, frequently landing in trouble. When his parents realized they had lost control over him, they threatened to take away the car and cut him off financially. But Marvin knew very well that they would never follow through, so he continued to disregard their warnings. By the time Marvin reached 20, the once skinny young man had started paying close attention to his appearance. He became a regular at the gym, focusing on building muscle. This new dedication to fitness led him to quit using illegal substances and drastically reduce his alcohol intake. Soon, another passion surfaced. Marvin began adorning his body with bold, colorful tattoos. However, after a few years, his enthusiasm for fitness waned. Convinced that his physique was already perfect, he stopped working out and slipped back into his old habits of wild parties, heavy drinking, and substance use. With his expensive car, designer clothes, and lavish spending of his parents' money, Marvin easily attracted women. many of whom approached him first, drawn by his flashy lifestyle. There's no clear record of how Marvin and the reserved beauty Miriam first crossed paths. Some sources say they were introduced by mutual friends who invited Miriam to a party, while others claim Marvin discovered Miriam's social media profile, was immediately drawn to her beauty, showered her with compliments, and quickly asked her out. Their relationship, which began in February, was rocky from the very beginning. Marvin treated Miriam like she belonged to him, and even his affectionate gestures often had an edge of aggression and control. For example, he would pinch her hard enough to leave bruises or grab her chin roughly during conversations to force her to look at him. Their private moments were no different, reflecting this troubling dynamic. Miriam once told a close friend that Marvin had a habit of choking her, insisting it was playful. But there were times when his behavior crossed the line, leaving her genuinely scared for her life. Still, Miriam, inexperienced in relationships, saw Marvin as her first serious boyfriend, her first great love, and the first man in her life. Naive and unaware of the danger she faced, she convinced herself that Marvin would never truly hurt her. She explained away his behavior as an unusual way of showing affection and was willing to forgive him. When Miriam introduced Marvin to her parents for the first time, they immediately sensed something was off. They were disturbed by how Marvin treated their daughter. His manner was rough and disrespectful, even in front of them. They couldn't help but worry about what might happen when the two were alone. Douglas and Ivania tried to reason with Miriam, urging her to end the relationship because they believed it would lead to nothing good. Marvin seemed immature to them, lacking ambition and any clear direction or goals for the future. But Miriam defended him passionately, insisting he was a good person who loved her deeply, even if his way of expressing it was unconventional. She believed he was simply trying to find his way in life. With no other option, her parents reluctantly accepted Miriam's decision and hoped for the best. Her friends grew increasingly worried after she started dating Marvin. The once lively and outgoing young woman became a mere shadow of herself. It seemed her entire life now revolved around her boyfriend, and she wouldn't go anywhere or speak to anyone without his permission. Friends also noticed bruises on her body, but Miriam always dismissed them as accidents or clumsiness. In October 2016, news broke that Miriam was pregnant. The announcement shocked her parents, her boyfriend, and even Miriam herself. At just 18 years old, the university student and her boyfriend were completely unprepared for such a life-changing event. Still, Miriam quickly decided to keep the baby. Her parents, Ivania and Douglas, supported her choice and promised to help raise their grandchild. They encouraged Miriam not to drop out of university and strongly advised her against marrying the baby's father. At first, Marvin pressured Miriam to terminate the pregnancy, but when he realized she was determined to keep the baby, his behavior became increasingly controlling. He began telling her she would never be free from him. After discovering the pregnancy, Marvin's treatment of Miriam worsened. He openly cheated on her, spent nights partying with alcohol and drugs, yet still closely monitored her every move. He insulted her whenever he could, making cruel remarks about how she would soon gain weight, become awkward, and lose her attractiveness. Marvin repeatedly told Miriam that no one else would want her, and if she left him, she would be alone forever. Despite the constant verbal abuse and emotional torment, Marvin desperately pushed Miriam to marry him. He framed his proposal as a selfless act, claiming he wanted to protect her from the stigma of being a single mother. But his actions revealed no genuine care or compassion. When Miriam felt unwell, Marvin told her to stay away and not bother him with her problems. In mid-December 2016, despite all the warnings from her loved ones, Miriam agreed to marry Marvin. However, Marvin's parents opposed the marriage as well. They refused to provide any financial support to the young couple, believing Miriam had intentionally gotten pregnant to exploit their family's wealth. They even threatened to disown their grandchild. Without financial stability or a place to live, the couple had no choice but to accept help from Miriam's parents. Douglas and Ivania allowed them to move into their home temporarily, either until the baby was born or until Marvin found a job and could afford their own place. Miriam's parents covered all expenses, effectively supporting their pregnant daughter and her unemployed husband, who was a domestic tyrant. Marvin was irresponsible, lazy, and disrespectful. With many bad habits he had no intention of changing. He freely took advantage of Miriam's parents' generosity, eating their food, borrowing money, and continuing his carefree bachelor lifestyle. Even worse, Marvin would insult and humiliate Miriam in front of her family. Whenever her parents confronted him, Miriam always stood up to defend her husband. One day, during another heated argument, Marvin grabbed Miriam by the neck and began choking her. Her father, Douglas, saw what was happening, rushed to help his daughter, and struck Marvin several times. In response, Marvin shouted insults at the entire family and declared he would never set foot in their home again. He packed his things and, despite the tears and pleas of his pregnant wife, walked away. From that day on, Miriam cried constantly and rarely left her room. She blamed her father for the incident and accused her parents of interfering in her marriage. Even after everything, Miriam failed to see the danger in Marvin's behavior and his physical violence, even during her pregnancy, and held on to the hope that they could still build a happy future together. About a week before her due date, Marvin, who hadn't contacted Miriam in nearly 4 months, suddenly showed up at the Vallejo family's doorstep. He claimed to have reflected on his behavior and said he was now ready to take responsibility for their child and support the family. Marvin apologized to Miriam and her parents but made it clear he had no plans to move back into their home. In July 2017, Miriam gave birth to a baby girl named Luciana. The father visited them at the hospital only once and then disappeared for another month. When he finally appeared at Miriam's parents' home, it was obvious his behavior hadn't changed. At times, Marvin showed up drunk or under the influence of drugs. He acted aggressively, insulted everyone, and refused to leave when asked. He frequently asserted his parental rights and even threatened legal action to take Luciana away, boasting about his family's wealth and connections. Shockingly, he also demanded that Miriam fulfill her marital duties. Most troubling of all, Marvin continued to closely monitor Miriam's every move. He demanded to know where she went, who she met, and what she did, keeping tight control over her life and treating her like his possession. Despite all this, divorce was never even brought up. The first criminal incident occurred on the evening of December 23, 2017, when Marvin showed up at the Vallejo family home, supposedly to visit his daughter. From the moment he arrived, he appeared agitated and ready to start a fight. When he approached the crib and saw their baby asleep, his frustration exploded. He began yelling, accusing Miriam of purposely putting their 5-month-old daughter to bed early to keep him away. Marvin's anger intensified as he violently shook the crib, waking and frightening the baby. Miriam hurried to soothe Luciana and begged Marvin to leave. Instead, he threatened to take their daughter away and never let Miriam see her again. Their argument quickly escalated, and suddenly Marvin grabbed Miriam by the neck, forcing her to the floor as he started choking her. At the time, they were in an upstairs bedroom while the rest of the family was downstairs, unaware of the disturbance. Miriam couldn't move, couldn't breathe, and couldn't call for help. She felt herself slipping into unconsciousness, convinced she wouldn't survive. Just as she was bracing for the worst, her father, Douglas, entered the room to check on them. For a moment, Douglas froze at the sight of Marvin attacking his daughter. Then, without hesitation, he rushed at his son-in-law, pushing him off Miriam and saving her life. Marvin shouted insults and threats as he stormed out of the house. It took Miriam nearly half an hour to calm down and regain her breath after the ordeal. The next day, she finally gathered the courage to go to the police and report the assault and attempted crime. She presented evidence of bruises, defensive wounds on her arms, and clear finger and palm marks on her neck. The injuries unmistakably showed she had been attacked and strangled. Authorities took her statement seriously and promptly moved to arrest Marvin. However, soon after his arrest, Marvin's parents and sister visited Miriam's home, begging her to drop the charges. They accused her of trying to destroy the life of their child's father and used every emotional tactic to persuade her. Under this pressure, Miriam relented and withdrew her statement the next day. As a result, Marvin faced no consequences for his actions. A deadly reconciliation and a mysterious death followed. About 6 weeks after the incident, Marvin began pleading with Miriam to reconcile and live together as a family for the sake of their daughter. Despite her parents' strong objections, Miriam eventually chose to give him another chance. Still deeply in love with him, Miriam clung to the hope that Marvin would change and finally take responsibility for his actions. This time, the couple moved into a cozy country house owned by Marvin's family. He insisted they couldn't live under Miriam's parents' roof anymore, claiming they interfered too much in their relationship. They relocated to their new home on March 18, 2018. But just 11 days later, a devastating tragedy ended the young mother's life. On that fateful day, the couple reportedly had another intense argument. According to Marvin, Miriam locked herself in the bathroom and turned up the music loudly. After about 15 minutes, Marvin knocked on the door and called her name but got no response. He then forced the door open with his shoulder and found Miriam unconscious on the floor. Marvin tried to revive her but, for reasons unknown, did not immediately call emergency services. Instead of calling emergency services, Marvin's first call was to his mother. Consequently, Marvin's mother and sister were the first to arrive at the scene. Only after they showed up did someone finally call for an ambulance, but precious time had already been lost. When paramedics arrived, they found Miriam's body lying naked on the bathroom floor. She had multiple bruises, a visible head wound bleeding, and blood pooling beneath her. At first, it seemed she might have slipped and fallen. However, defensive wounds on her arms and bruising around her neck suggested something far more sinister. While paramedics worked urgently to stabilize Miriam, Marvin's mother and sister began cleaning the bathroom as if nothing unusual had happened. One of the paramedics found their behavior deeply suspicious and alerted the police. By the time law enforcement arrived, the bathroom had been thoroughly cleaned with detergents, likely destroying crucial evidence. Meanwhile, Miriam was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Doctors managed to restart her heart twice, but after a third cardiac arrest, there was nothing more they could do. Miriam's parents, Evania and Douglas, arrived just in time to witness their daughter's final moments. Later, Evania recalled how her son-in-law had called her earlier that day in a disturbingly calm tone, informing her that Miriam was in critical condition in the ICU. Instinctively, she knew something terrible had happened. She screamed for her husband, and they hurried to the hospital. Upon arrival, they were told Miriam had likely suffered a severe beating, but only an autopsy could confirm the exact cause of death, an attempt to cover up a crime. To everyone's shock and frustration, the autopsy results failed to conclusively determine the cause of the 20-year-old's death. The official report given to the family stated she likely died from a traumatic brain injury caused by a fall. The tragedy was initially ruled an accident, with no mention of the bruises on her body or the strangulation marks on her neck. Evania and Douglas, now raising their 9-month-old granddaughter, knew the Bernays family was leveraging their wealth and influence to protect the man responsible for their daughter's death and keep him out of prison. Refusing to accept this injustice, the Vallejo family launched their own investigation. For months after Miriam's tragic passing, they finally obtained an official report confirming the cause of death as mechanical asphyxiation. She had been strangled with bare hands. Marvin was arrested on charges of killing his wife only in late July 2018. Until then, he had remained free, continuing his carefree bachelor lifestyle, attending parties, and living off his parents' money. He was reportedly shocked when the police showed up at his home, believing he had escaped any consequences. From that point, the investigation into Miriam's death gained momentum. However, piecing together the events proved incredibly difficult due to the months that had elapsed. Furthermore, as mentioned earlier, the crime scene had been thoroughly cleaned, and the house was later rented out, making any search for evidence futile. Consequently, the investigation shifted focus to collecting evidence and witness testimonies. Formal charges against Marvin were filed in November 2019, accusing him of committing the crime under aggravating circumstances. Many witnesses, including friends and family of the victim, testified that Marvin had repeatedly abused Miriam, physically attacking her, demeaning her, and exerting obsessive control over her life. Miriam's father recalled how, months before her death, Marvin had already attempted to strangle her, with Douglas intervening just in time to prevent another tragedy. The story of Miriam's earlier police report also resurfaced, how she had filed a complaint about an assault only to withdraw it the next day under pressure from the Bernays family. Ivania also shared further accounts of Marvin's abusive behavior. On multiple occasions, Ivania recounted, Marvin pushed Miriam so forcefully that she was injured when she fell. A paramedic who responded to the emergency on the day of Miriam's death also noted inconsistencies in Marvin's story. Marvin claimed that Miriam had locked herself in the bathroom, forcing him to break the door down with his shoulder. However, the paramedic observed that the bathroom door lock was intact, with no signs of forced entry. Had Marvin truly broken down the door, there would have been visible damage consistent with such an act. Another suspicious detail was the thorough cleaning of the bathroom right after Miriam was taken to the hospital. Although Marvin's mother and sister denied cleaning it, the timing and nature of their actions raised serious doubts. The medical examiner who performed the autopsy found numerous bruises, abrasions, and injuries consistent with prolonged, severe physical abuse. When confronted with this evidence, Marvin admitted that their argument that day had turned physical. However, he claimed that Miriam started the fight, saying she insulted him and hit him in the face first. Marvin stated that he only struck Miriam a few times in self-defense and did not cause any serious injury. The trial, custody dispute, and final verdict. Marvin Bernays' trial commenced in January 2017. He vehemently denied any responsibility for Miriam's death and shared his account of events. He explained that both he and Miriam were overwhelmed upon learning they were expecting a child, but that he was committed to taking responsibility, which is why he married her. Marvin further claimed their relationship began to unravel after moving in with Miriam's parents. He accused his in-laws of constantly interfering in their marriage, which fueled tension and conflict between him and Miriam. According to Marvin, the situation worsened after their daughter's birth, as he alleged Miriam suffered from postpartum depression, which supposedly caused her behavior to become unpredictable. Marvin described Miriam as sometimes aggressive and dangerous, even at times close to self-harm. He claimed the only solution was for them to move to a separate home. However, shortly after relocating, the tragic event took place. According to Marvin's account, after their final argument, Miriam went to take a bath, slipped, fell, and hit her head, which caused her death. To support this defense, Marvin's lawyer hired an independent medical expert who challenged the official findings and argued that the cause of death was a head injury from an accidental fall. Despite this, the court ultimately dismissed that claim. Marvin's sister testified in court, attempting to depict Miriam as mentally unstable, aggressive, and obsessed with her brother for financial gain. Marvin's mother supported this narrative, asserting that Miriam had ongoing mental health issues and backing the theory that her death was accidental. She claimed to have repeatedly warned Miriam about the slippery bathroom floor and recommended using an anti-slip mat, which Miriam allegedly ignored, resulting in the fatal fall. Additionally, the Bernays family declared their intention to pursue custody of Luciana, arguing that as the child's paternal relatives, they had superior rights over the Vallejo family. On January 27, 2020, the court found Marvin Bernays guilty of premeditated homicide with aggravating circumstances and sentenced him to 50 years in prison. Despite the defense's efforts to portray Miriam's death as an accident, the evidence conclusively showed that she died from mechanical asphyxiation. In addition to the lengthy prison term, Marvin was ordered to pay nearly $700,000 in compensation to Miriam's family for the emotional distress caused by his actions. Throughout the sentencing, Marvin remained detached and showed no remorse or admission of guilt. In his final statement, he blamed the media coverage of the case for his conviction, claiming that the public portrayal of him as a monster had biased the judicial process in favor of the Vallejo family. All his appeals against the verdict have been denied, and the sentence stands firm. Despite the harsh sentence, Marvin Bernays benefits from his family's wealth and influence, allowing him to serve his prison term under comparatively lenient conditions. Reports say his cell resembles a comfortable hotel room, complete with access to a gym and high-quality meals, a stark contrast to the typical incarceration experience. Meanwhile, the Bernays family remains determined to gain custody of Luciana, pushing legal battles to wrest the child from Miriam's family. Marvin, with the support of his lawyer, is preparing yet another appeal, hoping to overturn or reduce his sentence. The fight for justice and custody continues, casting a long shadow over the aftermath of this tragic case. If you found this case fascinating, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We post crime case videos every night. Until next time, stay sharp, stay vigilant.